Are you stuck in your house with nothing to do? Erin is here to bake with you. Quarantine Baking with Erin.
Hi, and welcome to Quarantine Baking with Erin. Today is going to be a long video because we are making macarons. I learned that it's macarons, not macaroons. Macaroons have coconut and I've never had one, but they're a different pastry baked good item. Okay, so we're gonna start. So first, we're going to combine our dry ingredients into the food processor. And you'll probably see Michael helping me out with a lot of the steps because there are just a lot of steps that I do not like to do. Okay, so we have 1 3/4 cups powdered sugar, 1 cup of almond flour. I believe you can make almond flour just from zhuzhing up almonds, I think, but I think that's how it's made. And then, you know, anytime I'm using salt, it's going to be some handful amount. This is supposed to be a half teaspoon. So we'll see about that. Okay, so what we're doing is we're getting the dry mixture all processed together so that it will be really, really smooth. So. So we've got this mixed together, but wait, there's more. To make sure that it is really perfectly blended and as smooth as possible, we're now going to sift the almond flour powdered sugar mixture. I have this awesome sticker that you do this to when it comes out, and it's awesome. So I will sift it from here into the one bowl, sift it into a second bowl, and then I sift it 3 times. No recipe calls for this, but you know, I just want to make sure it's properly sifted. It feels good.
You're mine. It is quite a task, though.
In order to maintain full artistic integrity and transparency on this show, I will let you know that this has been a 1 sift and not a 3 sift bake because sifting is so boring. It takes forever. It's just not gonna happen today. Okay, so we've got our mixture. We will come back to this shortly. So now that we've got our flour mixture, we are going to do the really fun part and make the meringue. So I have 3 egg whites that have been sitting out. They should be room temperature. So I have let them sit out for a little bit. They're about room temperature. You're gonna put them into a mixer and you are going to mix them with a half teaspoon of salt. That's probably it, a half teaspoon. And you're going to let them whip up until what's called soft peach form. And truly, whipping egg whites into a meringue is such a miraculous process that every time I believe it's not going to happen, and then it does. So this will go for a couple of minutes, and then we'll check back in when soft peach forms. Very close to soft peach. If you look, you can see that the whip going through is leaving traces of where it's gone through, and those traces are staying. actually maintain a little bit of shape. So as once you hit soft heat, which we're pretty close to, you will slowly add in a quarter cup of sugar. Just a little bit at a time so that it doesn't flatten out any of the air or make it flat. Sugar to dissolve completely in the mixture before you add more. This is what I would call about soft heat right now. When all the yellowness is gone and it's a little more creamy and marshmallowy. Now we're getting pretty close to stiff peaks. Stiff peaks is where the meringue will maintain its shape. So you know that you've reached stiff peaks when you can hold the bowl over your head and nothing moves. So we will try that in just a moment. All right, now for the best part of making any meringue. I always get nervous. Stiff peaks. So now that we've got our stiff peaks, we are going to add our vanilla. And I believe it's a tablespoon or a teaspoon. It is a half teaspoon. You know I don't play that game. I never measure vanilla. Okay, so we'll add this, keep this mixing, so this adds in really nice, combines really nicely. Oh, this is gelatin, that's not what I was looking for. And then we're gonna add some gel food coloring dye. I've used both the drops and the gel just has a nicer, it just comes through more. So let's see if I can find that in my newly organized cabinet. Thank you, quarantine. All right, so I like to use this pink. So we're just gonna add a few drops. Probably way too many drops, but I like a nice vibrant pink. Now comes the most important and most intricate part of the process. We are going to fold in the dry mixture into our meringue. How you do this, I've done this a number of times, so I believe that I have the perfect ratio. So you fold in 1/3 of this mixture, 20 strokes to combine. 1/3 of this mixture, 20 strokes to combine. You pour in the rest, and then between 25 and 30 strokes to really make sure that you're maintaining the air, doing big sweeping strokes. I'll show you, not over or under mixing until there are, I think it's called like falling ribbons, something ribbons. I'll show you. Okay, so we're gonna put in roughly 1/3. That's about 1/3, and then I do count to 20 of this. 20 strokes. 1, 2. All right, so 20. Second, third. Oh, that's probably more than a second, third. And the reason you're doing this sweeping kind of motion, it's hard to talk and count at the same time, is to make sure that you're not beating out, smushing out any of the air that you made in your meringue. All right, so normally it'd be a little bit more combined, but I definitely did at this second, third as much too big. All right, so now we're gonna do 25 to 30 strokes to make sure everything is really nicely combined. So now you should have falling ribbons, which is, you should be able to draw a figure 8 continuously with the batter like I just did. I mean, it's not a cute figure eight, but I could do it. Okay, so we're going to let this sit for just a second and then pipe our macaron mixture. All right, so I've got my mixture into my piping bag, and a lot of recipes will tell you to draw perfectly, like to trace something and to make sure that you're doing the exact same size circles. I just kind of freehand it because I'm not trying to spend my morning drawing circles. So I tend to make my macarons pretty small. That way there's more of them. And I like to be able to just toss them in your mouth in one delicious, delicious bite. So I do a spiral in a circle pattern. This takes forever and is extremely messy. So I hope you're okay with getting delicious macaron batter on your hands, because it's gonna happen. Okay, so we're gonna pipe one little tray. They don't really spread that much, so you don't have to be nervous about that much space apart. And I'm doing this on wax. No, I am not doing this on wax paper. I'm doing this on parchment paper. If you use wax paper, then your macarons will get stuck to the wax paper. If that's the only thing you have and you're desperate to make macarons, but all you have is wax paper, you can do that. But then you should boil some water and then steam the stuck paper off of the macarons. I was making them for my mom and dad, and I was so excited, and then I was absolutely devastated when I didn't look up, is there a difference between a wax paper and a parchment paper? There is. Okay, so we're gonna keep piping this in little cute little circles. I'll probably start making them bigger. Maybe. We'll see what happens. These are quite tiny, but they're cute. They're so cute. So after you've piped one parchment paper's worth of macarons, now comes the best / worst part. You have to drop the macarons and beat the air out of it. So you can do this a number of ways. I used to do this with the parchment paper on a 13x9 tray, but the noise is awful. So you can put a towel down and then drop your macarons onto the towel with the tray. I would rather do just dropping the paper. You can see the difference already. It's starting to flatten out. What you want is a flat and sticky looking surface. And you want them to be as uniform as possible. I usually do between 10 and 20 drops like this, because I'm not going so high up. If you go higher up, then they fold over on themselves and it's tragedy. And it's important to do this after every baking sheet you pipe, because the next step is drying out the macarons, and you don't want them to dry out before you have done this to knock the air out of them. So you can even see as you're dropping this, air bubbles rising to the top and then eventually disappearing. So this is not bad. I'll give it a couple more drops. I really do get so impatient. And then it's also important to remember the order in which you pipe them in terms of which sheet you're piping, because that's the order in which they will dry the fastest, and then that's what should go into the oven first. Okay, so we're gonna continue piping and dropping ad infinitum. Is that how you say that? So we're just gonna keep on swimming. I think for this part, we should speed it up and then put that clown music. That, you know that
The
one?
Benny Hill music.
Yeah.
We're still rolling, by the way.
Okay, so the macarons are piped, the air is beat out of them. You can see that they're a lot flatter. I think this pan looks the cutest, I would have to say. That one's pretty cute too. So yeah, the next step is to let them dry from between 30 minutes to an hour. I generally let them go an hour because I don't think it hurts anything. So when they're dry, they will be smooth to the touch. So right now they're still a little sticky. When they're dry, they won't be sticky at all. And then they're ready to go into the oven. So I'll see you when these babies dry. So we're waiting for our macarons to dry. And in the meantime, we're going to make a buttercream frosting so that once everything is cooked and cooled, we will take 2 of the little macaron cookies, put some buttercream in between, smush them together, and eat all of them. And then, yeah. I should say that this recipe comes from Tasty, but it's modified. I have these beautiful recipe cards that were made by my friend Maggie. And so this is the culmination of me making it enough times and then deciding exactly how I want to make it. Okay, so we've got 2/3 cup of softened butter. All right. And we're going to beat this. Come on. We're going to beat this for 1 minute. Okay, so now we are going to put in 2 cups of powdered sugar. I'm actually making 2/3 of what the recipe calls for 1 because I was worried I would run out of powdered sugar, and so I always make way too much buttercream frosting, and then it sits in my freezer. Okay, so we're gonna combine this. Okay, so, all right, now we're going to add 2 tablespoons heavy whipping cream. Thank you to Yelke for sending me the difference between heavy cream and the heavy whipping cream. I'm going to not apply that to my baking, but it is good to know. All right, so we're gonna add this like a tablespoon at a time. And then we'll also add, I don't even know how much the recipe calls for. You know how I do vanilla. We're gonna add that much vanilla. Ooh, you can smell it, you can see it in there. This is gonna be a good vanilla buttercream frosting. It's all getting combined. So, it's been about 45 minutes, and you can see that these are not sticky at all. They're dry to the touch, as are these. So I'm going, and I preheated the oven for 300 degrees. And I'm going to put these in together for 17 minutes. All right, so our timer has just gone off. Ooh, all right. Let's pull these out. Now, if you look, if you look closely, you can see where there's this difference in texture. There's like the smooth top, and then there's this other part that is stuck to the bottom and has a bunch of air holes in it. That's called the foot of the macaron, and that's where you get a lot of the lightness. So what has happened is it has risen, but because the top has dried properly, that has stayed intact. So these are looking like they're supposed to be looking, which is great. So I am just going to bake the rest of them, and then we'll come back when it's time to assemble. The last step is to assemble the macarons. So I have the vanilla buttercream frosting that we made earlier, and this cute little squeezy icing guy. I think my mom got it from the Pampered Chef some number of years ago, and I used it so much she let me keep it indefinitely. So we find two macarons that are about the same size and shape. If you had drawn your circles, they would probably all be the same size and shape, but I don't do that. And then I do a little squeeze of frosting. I think that's a good amount. And then you smush them together. So satisfying. And then you have what looks like the world's most delicious tiny little hamburger. It actually looks like pretty patties from SpongeBob, if you grew up watching that like me. So instead of doing all of this assembly on camera, I will make two so that Michael and I can try them out. Hold on. Just a little sploosh. And then you get to squish it. So satisfying. Okay.
Here we go. The legendary final verdict. I'm so happy you decided to make these.
What do they taste like?
They taste basically vanilla almondy. Vanilla almondy.
Makes sense given the ingredients.
Exactly. But it's the lightness of it all and the different textures. And it's almost like it has like a hint of salt, which makes it, I don't know, it just makes it come alive.
I forgot to mention, there really is one more step. You're supposed to keep them in an airtight container for 24 hours to let them bloom, whatever that means. I gotta be honest, they have never survived for 24 hours in my household. So I have shipped them before, and so when they've in other people's household, I think that the waiting overnight makes a positive difference. But all right,
if you can wait, they get softer. This is easily a 22 out of 10.
I am really grateful that I don't really care about macarons at all. So I can make all this deliciousness and it doesn't do anything for me. I think these are particularly good. So I'll give these an 8 out of 10 based on other batches I've made.
As I said, 24 out of 10.
Bye!
Well, are you stuck in your house with nothing to do? Erin is here to bake with you. Quarantine baking with Erin.